Good afternoon, everyone. So yeah, I'm Antonio Iannillo from the University of Luxembourg. And first of all, I want to thank Anchal and all the Ripple research team, amazing collaboration. And today we're going to talk about catching DeFi attacks before they happen and work on the Ethereum mainnet. We started with two numbers, $115 billion and $1.5 billion. I don't know if you know what these numbers are. The first one is like the DeFi TVL, like according to DeFi Llama. I updated that like I think a couple of weeks ago. And then 1.5 billion is what has been lost in attack in 2024 in the DeFi landscapes. With this research study, we actually look like into this kind of attacks, and we first try to understand how an attack works. So 95% of the attacks works like exactly like this. We have like a malicious account that is our attacker, that it wants to first of all create a malicious contract. This malicious contract is what he's going to use, or they're going to use to attack the target, our victim. So this is the deployment phase. After that, we have the execution of the attack. That means that the malicious account, the malicious attacker, will use this malicious smart contract to run the attack transaction and exploit the victim. The vulnerable code is executed, and then we have the stolen access. And after it, we have the last phase, that is the extraction. That means we are trying to, we are getting the stolen asset and retrieve them out of the chain. So what is the key idea of our work? We want to detect the attacks at deployment time by extracting features before any exploit transaction actually occurs. So how it works our pipeline, we start with the Ethereum monitor. So we are actually looking for the deployment transaction. We get the bytecode of the deployment bytecode of the contracts, and we start to extract features features, attributes from the transaction itself. We look at the deployer, so actually who ran this deployment transaction, and the bytecode itself. We start to extract some features, we select some of them, and we use them to detect if the contract is going to be used for malicious action or not. So first phase, we have the data collection. That means that we have malicious contracts and benign contracts. The malicious contract, we found 161 instances of on-chain attacks from 2020 to 2024, and with a total of 1.6 billion stolen assets. And we are actually considering only attacks that actually have vulnerable code inside the contracts. We are not considering social engineering, stolen private keys. We're just looking at the actual exploit of the contracts. While for the benign contracts, we have 5,000 randomly sampled contracts, in the same, more or less in the same period, and we are using indeed Ethereum blocks from 15 million to 70.5 million. And in order to be sure, we actually found these attacks doing a manual labeling using Etherscan and Rect, ChainSec, Rect News. And we came up with 465 features. We try to analyze all of them. I'm trying to go quickly over them in order to make you understand what we look at. So for the deployment code, we of course looking for the size. We were looking for the number of functions. We were looking for the opcode frequency. So for each opcode, we look the frequency inside the deployment bytecode. And then we were looking also at some control flow graph statistics. Then we look at the deployment transaction itself. So we're looking what was the gas fee, what was the gas price settings for the transaction. And at the end, we're looking at the deployer history. So the deployer, once again, is the account, the externally owned account, that deployed the malicious contract. And we try to analyze the history of this deployer. So we look at the age of the deployer wallet, we look at the balance before the deployment itself, the number of transactions, we look also at the holding of stable coins or any RC20 coins. From these 465 features, we of course, we couldn't use all of them. We started like to use some filters. Some filters person, we use like the wrapper, some embedding filters. At the end, like we tried to keep the features that were like the most important. They always ranked that in the top 10% for each of these selection algorithms. And we kept like 45 features that are like listed here. We are going like deeply like in that like maybe later, but just like to give you an idea. As you say, there are like the top of them are like about the deployer, so the number of transactions. Of course, we also indicate like if you're linear, like use like a log. And then we have like the single opcode counts. You say like there are like some specific opcode that are recurrent like in the selection algorithm. So we give like these 45 features to different models in order like to understand how they actually perform, like in order to detect like the malicious contracts from the benign contracts. We use like logistic regression, SVM, random forest, MLP, and XGBoost. From here, like you can see, like they almost performs the same. But if we're looking like more like in the analysis, we will see that we use, of course, like until mid-2023, we use it like for training these algorithms, and then we use it like the latest 2023 year and beginning of 2024, just like to test like our models. And we see that these classification algorithms, they perform like quite different. We have like the area under curve for the XGBoost is the best one, 0.96. We have like the logistic regression that performed very well according to the F1 scores. But at the end, like we decided like to go for the MLP because like the recall was the highest. And in this kind of detection, we want to have a high recall. I remind you, high recall means that we are not missing any attacks. So we can have some false positive, but we don't want to miss like the true positive, because like it's okay to analyze like something that at the end doesn't reveal to be an attack, but it's better to have like all the attacks in our results in order to be sure to detect all of them. So we decided to use the MLP. We just like doing some fine tuning, trying to detect what is the perfect threshold. So as you can see, like a threshold between 0.06 and 0.04 is the best one for our case. We have like the highest in all the metrics that we used. And that's why like then like we use this model and we compare with Forta ML boot. So Forta like provide like different bots that are used like for different detection tasks in the Ethereum blockchain, other chain as well, I think. And we compare like the outputs of the Forta ML bots with the output of our tool in order to understand how we perform compared to them. And we are actually better than them. We have a like higher try-positive rate. Like they're missing like, of course, like none of the two are perfect. We miss some attacks, but like they miss like 5 more attacks than us. And also they have like a higher false positive rate. That means like more work like for the analyst. In order to better understand like, let's try to understand what are the features that actually indicate that the smart contract is benign or malicious. As you can see, like how to read this graph. So you have like, for example, the proyelbiance after contact creation. We have like a high value indicates that actually is probably an attack, and the low value is actually indicates that maybe this is not an attack. Another one can be like the deployer aging block. As you can see, like a high value means that actually the deployer is being around for a long time. That means that probably is not an attacker, because usually attacker like use the account just for the attack. So they use it for the first time, they create just a malicious contract, and then they go. This is like the most to explain like most of like the features used like in the detection tool. And we have like some opcode, for example, like you can see that the call opcode is very like high used like in the normal concept, but not like in the malicious one. So just like to conclude, we and to understand that this can be improved. We still have some false positives. That is about like 10, if you make a comparison, it's about like 10 false positives every day. That is still manageable by 2 analysts because during the day, because anyway, like it's 1 false positive is per hour. And then, of course, like we have to work like more like to integrate this into like incident response. So we have like this automated part, but of course we need also like a human review of the output of this tool because it's not perfect. And then, of course, like we want like to test for the robustness, so improve like of course the rate. And that's it for my presentation. I would really like to thank you for your attention.